Welcome back to more WKYT News. CASA of Lexington kicked off its annual Angel Tree event today in Fayette County.
WKYT's Destiny Quinn shares how it's making a difference for children in need in our Commonwealth of Kindness.
The wishes of 188 kids in Fayette County were hung up on a Christmas tree today in Lexington. Now it's up to all of us to help make those wishes come true.
3, 2, 1.
Every year, CASA Angel Tree events provide hundreds of gifts for children in the local family court systems that are served by CASA of Lexington.
The work we do at CASA can be hard. We deal with child fatalities, children being separated from their parents or from their siblings once they're in the system, sexual abuse, physical abuse, trafficking, things that no one should ever have to see, but especially a child.
A CASA is a court-appointed special advocate. They help serve the children in these difficult situations. Vice Mayor Dan Wu spoke at today's event. He volunteers his time as a CASA.
Very often there's not like an easy, immediate, obvious answer to how to solve this problem. And you realize how important this role is because I'm going to be there for my kid.
Today's event has been sponsored by McBrayer for 20 years. Its goal is to bring these children joy.
We give them the opportunity to dream and wish big.
On the tree hangs the children's names, the items they need, and their wishes.
Some of our kids, we've literally had list anything new because they've never had something that was new and just theirs.
Other lists have included dolls and toys.
We've seen things from bicycle to shrimp sauce because the 7-year-old said fancy people eat shrimp.
And some even bigger wishes.
We've seen horse, in parentheses, real, and know that Claiborne Farm made sure that that child had the opportunity with their siblings to see a real horse.
And that's not all that was hanging on the tree today.
There are 2 other opportunities outside of selecting a tree. You can make a tax-deductible gift, and we have ornaments that we can give you to give to your loved one to show that you've made a donation to CASA.
Those ornaments will be colored by CASA children.
The third thing on the tree are dog bones. So we have the only certified courthouse facility dog in Kentucky, Matilda, who goes to court with children when they have to testify, and she has things from flea treatments to food to vet visits.
There's plenty of opportunity to make a difference.
An opportunity to make some of these children's wishes come through, and I think, why would we not do that?
If you would like to help out, you can call CASA of Lexington's office and they'll pair you with a child. You can also purchase gifts from the CASA Angel Tree wish list on Amazon. We have a link to that on the WKYT News app.
Destiny, thank you. And CASA is always in need of more volunteers. They will be training new CASA volunteers on January 9th. If you have a story of kindness that you would like for us to share, just email us at kindness@wkyt.com.